all hope is lost. Someone somewhere is interested in you. And this is no one but Mr. Bruce Fein, a white man from a very far away. Not our color, not our culture, but he's interested in us, in our well-being. Unbelievable. And this proved to me that truly there is God. He has sacrificed a lot. He has risked as well for my sake and for the sake of those you don't even know. At this point, I will call on Mr. Bruce Fein to take over the microphone. And Mr. Bruce, I don't really know how to introduce you. I'm short of words.
Yeah.
So please pardon me.
Well, my record speaks for
welcome,
itself. Anyone can go on the internet, but thank you for the generous introduction. I believe that justice has no territorial boundaries. It is universal, and we're all obliged as human beings to pursue justice. And whenever injustice rears its head, we move forward in opposition. And that clearly is the case in Nigeria, certainly not only with Biafrans, but especially Biafrans. Just as a preface to my remarks, even the language is distorted. The fact is there's no secession going on. Biafrans never voted to join Nigeria. There was never a self-determination vote that's required under Article 1 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. You can't secede from something you never joined, right? And that's something that's been lost. There's no moral justification for Nigeria's boundaries. They were drawn at the end of British machine guns over a century ago. Those kind of boundaries have no moral or legal justification. But that's just kind of a preface and observations about the context in which we're operating here. I'm to describe so far where we are with regard to many of the legal initiatives that I've undertaken with others. First of all, in the United States, we have two pending lawsuits. One, we sued to prevent or require the return of Super Tucano military aircraft to prohibit their use in the ongoing genocide of Biafrans in the South. The case is still pending, but we have been able to provoke the Secretary of State to order Nigeria to keep the use of the Super Tucanos to the north. So in some sense, we've already achieved the purpose of the lawsuit. It put it on the agenda of the State Department. They know what's going on in the Southeast and said you can use these against Boko Haram in the north, but not against the Biafrans. We have a second lawsuit. It's a defamation suit against a newspaper and Mr. Sheehan, who is a professor at the University of Baltimore, based upon his defamatory accusation that IPOB is a terrorist organization that should be listed by the Secretary of State. That case is pending. We have outstanding motions that we're waiting decision from the district court. But I'm highly optimistic, given the nature of the law and the outrageousness of the publication, that I believe was inspired by someone in the Buhari administration calling this professor, who had never written anything on Nigeria in his entire life. He's Russian. He focuses on Europe. Why would he write this unless there was something in it for him? Whether it's a payment of money, hiring his niece in some kind of sinecure or otherwise, it seems highly unusual that he would suddenly stand up and write about an issue he knew nothing about. I did notice that he had tweeted like 2,000 feeds prior to the lawsuit. None of them concerned Nigeria until he wrote this article. Then there were 4 tweets, but then the lawsuit comes and he's stopped tweeting anymore. Anyway, that's circumstantial evidence to show that clearly Nigeria in somewhere is behind this. But those are the lawsuits pending in the United States. With regard to the international forum, been pending before the Working Group of Arbitrary Detention. It's an arm of the United Nations Human Rights Council, a petition I submitted to have Nnamdi Kanu's detention declared a violation of international law. The working group is sitting as we speak now to come up with rulings in April. I've supplemented the initial submission that I traveled to Nigeria about 4 or 5 months ago with updates relating to each new outrage with regard to Nnamdi Kanu's case, including recently the chief judge's decision to make the trial a completely secret trial where nothing will be exposed to the public, so they can have phony evidence and phony witnesses and documents that no one will ever know about. They hope that will be the case. Uh, and I fully expect to have a decision to say this month. The working group meets 3 times a year, and April is one of those meetings. I've been in contact with an intercessor. Her name is Lawana, making sure that she has all the most recent information. With regard to on the ground in Nigeria, we're in the process of contemplating a civil lawsuit for damages brought by Nnamdi against both Kenya and Nigeria for his illegal kidnapping, torture, arbitrary, extraordinary rendition, and continuing detention and solitary confinement in Nigeria. Hope to file it in a Nigerian court relatively soon. There was a companion case in the Abia High Court in Nigeria that was prevailed on by Eloy Ejimokor, where a $5 billion of Naira was awarded for the 2017 attempted that. Apologize for that interruption. Anyway, so we have this civil case that seeks an equal amount of damages for the more recent outrage against Nnamdi Kanu's internationally law protected right. Okay. Well, I'll jump in here where there's we have also planned a couple of other lawsuits. There is a companion to the International Criminal Court called the International Court of Justice, and it deals with suits between nations. And we are hoping to recruit some nation to sue Nigeria for genocide. It's not required that the nation that sues Nigeria itself be the victim of the wrongdoing. But we're working on that. We need to make certain that we're able to recruit a nation that was supportive of Biafra during the 67-70 Civil War. But the International Court of Justice has shown it clearly is interested in these matters. It's recently found the Myanmar government in Asia guilty of genocide against Rohingya Muslims, if you will. Then there are two outstanding criminal charges in the International Criminal Court that I filed in The Hague. One is against Attorney General Abubakar Malami, and the other against the presiding judge in this case, Nnamdi's case, Binta Nyako, for conspiring in the planned judicial murder of Nnamdi Kanu. It seems quite clear they're taking orders from President Buhari and violating rights of Nnamdi Kanu every single day. Indeed, as we speak now, it's another day of a violation of Nnamdi Kanu's right against arbitrary detention and right of access to counsel. Every single day for the last 10 months has been a new violation of Nnamdi Kanu's rights. And it's clear that this is part of a pattern of the Fulani-controlled government of Nigeria to attempt to destroy Biafrans, their leadership through, say, illegalities. But the larger picture is in the southeast, where there's efforts at starvation, theft of land, a denial of livelihood, rape, murders, killings on an industrial scale, all with the goal of trying to extinguish the Biafran people. Indeed, I believe that President Buhari himself gave away the game when he bluntly threatened that he would return to the massacres earmarking the 67-70 war if the Biafrans didn't succumb and turn into docility, notwithstanding their oppression, violence every day by the Fulani herdsmen and by Python Dance 2, the official security forces as well. They clearly are working in tandem with one another. So those are the basic legal positions that are outstanding. But we have additional cases that we would hope to file with additional resources. Moreover, there's writing materials that we have submitted to President Buhari, to Attorney General Boubacar Malami, uh, trying to accept their at least professed interest in speaking with Nnamdi Kanu to see whether there can be a peaceful resolution of these upheavals, really lawlessness in the southeast by the Nigerian government. But they have turned those aside. I think it shows the insincerity of their whole pretense of suggesting that they want any rule of law here. I have visited Nigeria 3 times in the last several months, seeking to participate in courtroom proceedings, at least as an observer, and visit Nnamdi Kanu. Although I've been frustrated each occasion, some of my interviews have been censored, but I've used those violations of Nnamdi Kanu's right to access to counsel to buttress the claim before the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention in Geneva. So they haven't been futile, although it's been disappointing that the government has been so contemptuous of Nnamdi Kanu's right to counsel, to have reading material, to communicate and prepare a defense. I believe that the current existing charges are completely bogus, that the government of Nigeria has no evidence that could convict Nnamdi Kanu of any kind of crime. And I'm involved in encouraging a demand that the government go to trial or the case be dismissed by presiding Judge Nyako. It's well beyond the period of time that the government could prepare its case, 10 months. And they've got legions of attorneys, legions of investigators. I know because I see them at the DSS. And to suggest, well, they don't have a case yet, they need more time to prepare is ridiculous. And to force the judge to order the government, you got to go to trial or the case is done. So those are all the efforts that are underway. Of course, we also have to ensure that we keep the psychological momentum high, that we never believe that we can lose. Nnamdi Kanu himself is an icon. He epitomizes the kind of courage and resolution that's needed to prevail in this kind of situation when you have money and guns and violence on the other side. But injustice is always weak because it has no moral foundation to it. It falls apart as soon as they encounter resistance. And that's why we can always be certain that standing up is worth the price. Weakness emboldens bullies. That's a truism throughout the whole world. And I'm really, really pleased to see how well the Biafran people have been able to stand solidly behind Nnamdi Kanu and make certain that the world pays attention to what the ongoing travesty is. Ultimately, we will prevail because we're never going to give up. One of the things I need to remind the Nigerian officials is there's no statute of limitations on the crimes that I've charged at the International Criminal Court. We know that President Buhari is going to leave office next year. At that point, a lot of officials who are participating in the planned judicial murder of Nnamdi Kanu are no longer going to have Buhari's shield. They need to think hard and long whether they want to participate in this criminality because they will be called to account. It's not if, but when. But that's basically a description of where we are at present. And there are other initiatives to be undertaken. But I believe the most important next step will be at the International Court of Justice to sue Nigeria for genocide.
Thank you so much, Bruce. Bruce, please, shall we put our hands together for Bruce, please? It's not easy.
Thank you.